Hey everybody, Stephanie McPhail-Your and Dream Coach here. Just wanted to talk to you about some things that have been coming up lately from clients about incompletes. And when we do coaching, what we do is we work on things that have not been completed, things from the past that are still left incomplete and that are affecting us. For pretty much all of us, if we have something hanging over our heads, it's hard for us to move on from it. I know for me, one of my incompletes was an ex-boyfriend. I had a long-term relationship with someone for 7.5 years. He was my first real major relationship. And at about 5 years in, his father got very sick with cancer, and we took care of him until he passed away. And my boyfriend at the time just wasn't dealing with it very well. And he became very isolated and withdrawn. And I kept trying to help him, and I couldn't. And it finally got to the point where he started becoming very aggressive and just angry and hurtful towards me. And it came to a point where I started to feel like I was drowning and I wasn't going to be helpful to anybody, and I had to end the relationship. And there was a lot of guilt, and it's interesting, and I didn't realize how strong that guilt was, but there was a lot of guilt. There was guilt that I left someone that I cared about, really a lot. And I left him in his time of need. And that's how I felt. So time went on and I started dating again. And then I got into another relationship. And then that relationship started to go south pretty quickly. And because of that guilt that I had from the previous relationship, that incomplete, I continued with that next relationship. And I continued until things got really, really, really bad, really unhealthy. And I still stayed through. And finally, luckily, I got to the point where I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I ended that relationship as well. The interesting thing is that about maybe 8 months later, after everything was over with my next relationship, I got a message from my ex-boyfriend, that first boyfriend of 7.5 years. And we started talking, we went back and forth. And he said, I was like, he said to me, I'd really like to meet up, and I'd really like to talk to you. And I said, okay, I would love that. That would be great. And he said, wow, I'm surprised you would want to talk to me after everything I put you through. And I said, there's always a reason. So, I would love to be able to talk to you. So we ended up talking and hanging out. And it was amazing from his perspective what he saw happen. And he knew that he spiraled. He spiraled and there was nothing he could do. And he kept telling me over and over again, you did everything you could have done. It was not your job to take care of me the way that you did. And most people would have never put up with me the way that you did. And that's what I needed to hear. I needed to hear that apology, that letting go from the other person. I didn't have to feel that guilt anymore. And it was such an amazing release for me to finally have that. And then, he kept telling me all these things that we were so thankful for, and about the relationship. There was so many positive things, and how much he knew he had messed up, and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't realize how much I needed that closure until I got it. And it was life-changing. Because after I realized that relationship that had gone so south, that started so wonderfully, and I had messed up other relationships or allowed messed up relationships to continue for longer than I needed to because of that first mess up, it just affected me so terribly. And after that, I changed a lot of the things that I did when I was dating. And that was a major, major thing that I needed to put in the past. And, I've been working with a few clients, and there's other things that people have as incompletes, whether it's a relationship with a parent who has passed, or whether it's a relationship with someone who also went sour. People have had some very traumatic events happen to them and then have not been able to move on and move past that. Some of the things that I would suggest, if you can't do what I did and actually get in contact with a person and actually be able to have that conversation, if you can, it's wonderful. But obviously, if it's with death or some kind of other situation, maybe that's not an option for you. So there's a few things that you could do. You could write a letter. That I find to be very, very helpful. Writing a letter, whether or not you send it to them or you just take it and you do some kind of ritual to say goodbye and give the energy back to the universe. To have a little ceremony about it. To talk to a friend about it. to have somebody else to kind of role play that back and forth. I mean, and I said this before, therapy could be a really great way for you to actually talk that through and let that become a complete, instead of having that hanging over your head like that. Finding yourself again, really finishing up that part of your history so that it doesn't keep coming up. Because if you don't do that, then it's not going to stay in the past. It's going to affect every relationship, everything else that you do. And it shouldn't, or it's not good and healthy for you as a person right now to let your history be you now. That's not who you are anymore. You're different than who you were 5 or 10 years ago. Of course, we have lots of similarities, but we need to be able to really let go of those past things that have hurt us and move on. It could be even volunteering at a place that works with people that have been victims of whatever it is that you've been a victim of. Anything that you feel could be helpful for you, helping other people, could be a really great way of getting past that incomplete. And then from there on out, making sure that you finish all the incompletes that you have, and then don't start new incompletes. Make sure that you really communicate and say what you need to say when you need to say it, and not hold things in. Because that's one of the biggest problems I have, is that communication. People that I work with, they're not communicating and they're holding things in, and that can destroy you more than you could ever realize. So love yourself, be strong, work on those incompletes, and make this the best part of your life. And always remember, you're way stronger than you realize.